The Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Please feel free to contact us with your comments, suggestions, or questions, and stay with us. Our Reading the Buffalo News is coming up next.
The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or another print disability that makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or even impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. If you want more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org. Your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service now presents a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for today, Tuesday, June the 9th, 2026. Your readers today are Lori and
Lita.
Let's talk about the weather. You know, looking ahead, you're not going to have to water your own flowers because we're seeing rain again in the future. Very warm today, with times of sun and clouds and a high of 85. A heavy thunderstorm early tonight, then a stray thunderstorm. Low of 69. A couple of showers and thunderstorms tomorrow with a high of 77. Thursday, a thunderstorm in parts of the area and a high of 80. Friday, a shower and thunderstorm.
Something different.
Saturday, less humid with some sunshine. Yay! Sunday, those showers are going to be around. And Monday, it'll be partly sunny. If you're not warm enough, go to Perryton, Texas, 102. And the low is 27 in West Yellowstone, Montana. Get out your tissues, people, because the pollen yesterday was high, and today it is high yet again.
I believe it.
Yeah. The sunset is tonight at 8:53 p.m. Those nice long days, gotta love them.
Yes, I do.
You.
I do. Okay, on the front page we have an article. Salman Rushdie attacker announces decision on testimony for terrorism trial. Salman Rushdie's attacker did not testify at his state trial, but now says he intends to do so at his federal trial next month on terrorism charges. But Hadi Matar no longer seeks to represent himself. I do intend to testify at trial, Matar said Monday at a U.S. District Court proceeding. Senior U.S. District Judge Richard Arcara held the hearing to get a final answer from the New Jersey man on whether he wished to proceed with Nathaniel Barone and Andrew Brodeghem as his court-appointed defense lawyers. Last month, Matar indicated he might wish to represent himself in the criminal case. He was saying things that caused me concern about his representation, Arcara said. Matter previously indicated he wanted to represent himself along with the other lawyers. Matter said Monday he was interested in representing himself so that he could make his own opening statement and closing argument, as well as respond to government objections or make his own objections during the trial scheduled to start on the 21st of July. But Arcara explained to Matar that either his court-appointed defense lawyers would represent him or he could represent himself, but not both. If Matar chooses to represent himself, the court would appoint a standby counsel who would not represent him or lead the case, but could offer procedural advice, explain the law, and assist with legal research or drafting motions. Barone and Matar was confused by what he heard at a previous court hearing about becoming a pro se litigant. It's not that it's confusing, Matar told the judge. I didn't know why it wasn't allowed. That's the law, Arcara replied. Can I say it less confusing? Barone said he spoke with Matar before Monday's hearing and explained to him that it's one way or the other. He wanted to stick with us, Barone told the judge. Matar confirmed with the judge he intends for Barone and Brodeghem to handle his defense. Both attorneys represented Matar at the state trial that arose from his 2022 attack on Rushdie at Chautauqua Institution. Matar ran onto the stage at the Chautauqua Institution where Rushdie was about to speak on the 12th of August 2022, stabbing him more than a dozen times before an audience, leaving the prize-winning novelist blind in one eye. Rushdie also suffered wounds to his stomach, chest, hand, and thigh. Matar is serving a 25-year state prison sentence after a Chautauqua County jury found him guilty of second-degree attempted murder for stabbing Rushdie and second-degree assault for wounding a man who was on stage with Rushdie. Matar now faces 3 federal charges, including committing an act of terrorism transcending national boundaries. For that charge, which carries the potential of a life prison sentence, a federal grand jury indictment accuses him of attempting to kill Rushdie and committing an assault that resulted in serious bodily injury with a dangerous weapon. The two other charges related to attempting to provide material support to a foreign terrorist organization and providing material support to terrorists. Those charges carry maximum prison sentences between 15 and 20 years. A federal grand jury said Matter's assault and his preparations essentially provided material support to Hezbollah, considered a terrorist group by the U.S. and other countries. Barone said there is a good chance Matter will testify at the federal trial. Defense attorneys typically wait until they see the government's proof before recommending whether their client should testify themselves. You have to wait to see what happens at the trial, Barone said. You just don't know until then. It's not uncommon for a defendant who did not testify at the first trial and was convicted to insist on testifying at the next trial, Barone said. They say, okay, I didn't do it the first time around. Now's my chance and I want to do it differently, Barone said. It's the client's fundamental right and choice whether to testify. While he did not testify at the state trial, Matter stood and made a statement at his sentencing about freedom of speech, in which he called Rushdie a hypocrite, according to an Associated Press account of the sentencing hearing. Salman Rushdie wants to disrespect other people, said Matter. He wants to be a bully. He wants to bully other people, and I don't agree with that. The state trial focused mostly on the knife attack, but the federal trial will deal with conspiracies or intent, Barone previously told the News. The federal charges require the government to prove certain things on the part of Hezbollah, not just Matter as a sole actor, Barone has said. Rushdie spent years in hiding after the Ayatollah Khomeini issued a fatwa, or edict, in 1989 calling for his death over Rushdie's novel, The Satanic Verses, which some Muslims consider blasphemous.
And for property owners, now comes the hard part. Here's a question. When is a 19% tax increase a good thing? The answer, when it's not nearly a 26% tax increase. It's no joke in the city of Buffalo, where after a long and sometimes acrimonious budget process, property owners now know what to expect to happen in their tax and user fee bills in the next fiscal year, which begins July the 1st. Mayor Sean Ryan told residents long before he took office that the painful news was coming after years of flat taxes and imbalanced budgets, and he followed through by proposing a budget that would raise the property tax levy, the total amount to be raised in property taxes, by 25.8%. After haggling with the Common Council, the final tally fell by almost 7 percentage points. Deputy Mayor Benjamin Swainkamp, who oversaw the budget process for the mayor's office, said the decreased tax levy increase from the proposed amount was a result of many conversations with council members. We worked very hard to genuinely seek compromise with the council and listen to their feedback, he said. So in our amendment package, the things you see us adjust were directly related to feedback from the council. The Ryan administration has acknowledged that significant tax increases will cause financial pain for residents, particularly those on the economic margins. But officials also have pointed to the stagnant property tax and user fee rates that property owners have paid for years, putting the city at the lowest tax rates by assessed value in the region and by a significant margin. In the administration's original pitch to city residents, officials said the levy increase would mean about $10 more in taxes per month for homes assessed on the lower end of the spectrum and about $40 a month for homes with a higher assessed value. The approved budget lowered those numbers, so a home assessed at about $347,000 will end up paying about $31.80 per month more in property taxes, compared with about $43 more under Ryan's proposed budget. For a home assessed at $75,000, instead of about $9.31 more per month, the tally will be about $6.88 more per month. The city has since updated its tax increase calculator to the 19% figures. Residents can plug in their address and see what their tax bill will be for the next fiscal year. As part of the budget process, Ryan's administration, with council approval, also increased the city user fee, which funds city refuse collection, by 25%. For a residential property with a 65-gallon waste and recycling tote, the owners will see an increase of $62.50 each, or $125 total in their yearly payment, and that'll happen next year. The enterprise fund, which is the city fund that holds and distributes user fee payments, is by law required to be self-funding, meaning that it must take in at least as much as it spends each year. But under former Mayor Byron Brown, who was in office for almost 19 years, the rate was increased only once and ran a deficit throughout much of his tenure, despite continuously rising costs for refuge collection. The Enterprise Fund currently owes the city's general fund more than $30 million, which will be repaid in 5 years under the new rates. Part of the reason the Ryan administration has said it needed such significant hikes. Increases to the fee, first instituted in 1995 under former Mayor Anthony Masiello, at a time when the city was near its taxing and borrowing limits and could no longer afford to pay for refuse collection without collecting more revenue, have been deeply unpopular with city residents. Failure to repay the debt owed to the general fund and make the enterprise fund self-sustaining would cause issues with the city's outside auditors, would risk bond rating downgrades, and would raise red flags for the Buffalo Fiscal Stability Authority. We couldn't allow that to continue because it was hitting a tipping point, and so we needed to put together a plan to get that fund out of debt. Swain Cap said that once the money is repaid, the city is likely to lower rates, so long as it can do so while continuing to fully fund the enterprise fund. I know it's frustrating once we get that taken care of, then we can go back down. While all council members said they recognize the serious financial issues that the city faces, the state comptroller office says the city's structural deficit stands at $103 million. All also said the initial tax increase proposal of 25% was too high. The budget amendment package negotiated between the Ryan administration and the council passed 5-4. Council Majority Leader Leah Halton Pope, Council President Pro Tempore Zenita Everhart, and North Council Member Joseph Gollenbeck put forth an alternative amendment package that would have cut $24 million from Ryan's proposed spending plan, bringing the tax levy increase to only 13%. They argued that the significant increase would lead to foreclosures and evictions, as renters will bear the burden of increased rental rates. Lovejoy District Council Member Byron Ballman voted no on both packages, saying the 19% rate was still too high for his constituents, but that the alternative amendment package went too far. But those who voted in favor of the adopted budget said many of those cuts would have hurt the city's ability to deliver services and would have curtailed the Ryan administration's ability to put the city back on sound financial footing. The administration has been pushed by council members and advocates to find ways to help people on fixed incomes to afford the increases, including property tax circuit breakers and other income-based tax relief. Administration officials have said they plan to work on those solutions going forward. Meantime, the city held a series of 10 workshops attended by hundreds of people and helped more than 150 homeowners enroll in existing tax relief programs like the state's STAR exemption to get as many eligible homeowners in the programs as they can. Information on how to enroll in those programs is available on the city's website.
And you are listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service, and the time is 14 minutes past the hour. And apparently we're going to get a boost in our state aid, and city officials are seeing an opportunity. With the state budget passed days after the final city budget amendments were approved, city officials got a pleasant surprise, a $65 million increase in state aid over last year. Some increase was expected, but the amount reached the top end of what members of Mayor Sean Ryan's administration had hoped for. Now, with the numbers already locked in for the city budget, the extra cash will give administration officials a cushion against unforeseen expenses, a backup for uncertain revenue included in the spending plan, and cash on hand to pay for reimbursable projects. Ryan said the money will help the city in multiple ways, but the ability to put money out for reimbursable projects and wait to be paid back will be most helpful. In recent years, the city has foregone reimbursable projects because with reserve funds depleted under former Mayor Byron Brown, it didn't have the cash available to pay for the projects up front. In the final state budget, legislators and Governor Kathy Hochul's administration included an additional $65 million over last year. That pot of money includes $30 million meant to help the city close its current budget gap and $35 million to help in the 26-27 budget. Deputy Mayor Benjamin Swanekamp, who ran the city's budget process, said the city was cautious when considering how much state aid to anticipate. Even up to the night before the state budget was passed, officials were not certain of how much would come Buffalo's way. The $65 million represents a best-case scenario world, he said. Swanekamp said the city will work with the city comptroller's office to see what can be accomplished with potential funding mechanisms for projects. That may include loosening restrictions on what is called the interfund loan account, a city account that allows for the use of funds to be paid for reimbursable projects or additional borrowing for capital projects. It's not a complete game changer, but it will help a fair bit, Swanekamp said. During a recent meeting of the Common Council Finance Committee, Deputy Comptroller Delano Dowell Sr. said the interfund loan fund is almost gone. The city has 38 ongoing projects funded by that budget line, including 17 in the construction phase at a cost of $10.8 million and 18 in the design phase costing $4.2 million. The interfund loan line has $18 million with about $15 million outstanding. About $2.7 million remains unspent. The Department of Public Works has requested that money be moved into the line to fund more reimbursable projects, but there is no money in the general fund available. So that is something we do need to work on, to try to build up a lot of our cash so we're able to fund a lot of these projects or grants that were awarded to the city, Dowell said. As state money comes in for the next fiscal year, which begins in July, administration officials say they are looking to move more money into the fund to get more projects moving. Niagara District Council member David Rivera urged the administration and comptroller's office to make that a priority going forward. I'm hopeful somehow, some way, we can come together and come up with a creative way to have funds in place to get these projects off the ground.
Absolutely. And in my view, Robert Bogart knows he'll find Buffalo people wherever he travels because Buffalonians are always easy to spot.
I don't know if that's a good thing.
The buffalo, the bison, the piercing eye, the confidence, empathy, and camaraderie. The universal sign of a Buffalonian. Unmistakable. 1 degree of separation, 1 degree from Buffalo. I have long held a serious, completely unscientific hypothesis. Everyone in the world is connected to someone from Buffalo. Not always directly. Sometimes through a cousin, a college roommate, a parent who grew up there, a guy who dated someone's sister, or a Franciscan priest who once coached JV hockey at my high school. But the link is always there. While the guest of a close friend at a storied club tucked deep in the redwoods of Northern California, we waited patiently for the daily lakeside talk. It was a perfect 65-degree day with mist floating over the lake as if it were Loch Ness. I looked at my friends and asked, "Any members from Buffalo here?" "I doubt it," he replied. "I've never met one." My reply was perfect. "I know there are." Then the speaker was announced. "Born and raised in Buffalo," the loudspeakers bellowed during the introduction. "Told ya." And of course, there was the customary "Go Bills" as he walked by, acknowledging me with a smile and a high five. 15 minutes later, we were still talking. some Buffalo Catechism, neighborhood, high school, wings, Bills. And this is the year, always said with total sincerity and absolutely no supporting evidence. That is how Buffalonians pass through the world. We have sports trauma, lake effect weather, chicken wings, and a deeply irrational belief that this year is definitely the year. Because, this year is definitely the year.
Absolutely.
Buffalo people do not just recognize each other, we test each other gently with old street names, high schools, and best wing questions. Get the joint wrong and we will still love you, but we may quietly assign you to Rochester. With the proud and iconic Buffalo on my hat, no matter where I am, I meet people from the homeland. Just recently, over coffee in the cool shade of a 75-degree day in Silicon Beach, I heard the all too familiar call, "Go Bills!" My new friend immediately opened his backpack and showed me his Sabres cap and his winter hat. Then, of course, came the question, "What high school did you go to? Do you know so-and-so? Are you related to? Wow, your father? He was one of my favorite Buffalo Sabres growing up." 2 hours later, again, "Go Bills! From Buffalo," I asked. "Born there," he said. "Raised in Jersey." "Sorry," I replied. That is what I used to hear when I went to college. Buffalo? Sorry. Not anymore, not for a long time. As a Lovejoy-born city boy, I spent years believing that you were from Buffalo only if you were actually from Buffalo. If you were from a suburb, you were from Western New York. Still welcome at the tailgate, but technically not Buffalo. My opinion has changed. If you have a smile on your face, warmth in your heart, and a Bills hat on your head, you're in. And before anyone gets offended, Jersey isn't bad, as long as you're miles away from any interstate.
I love that. That's a great article. Okay, and from the editorial of the news, finally a deal. A promising complex for downtown Niagara Falls is taking shape at last. People in Niagara Falls finally have hope that something will be done on downtown land that has long been vacant and desolate. City officials are getting their chance to build a new sports and entertainment complex anchored by a minor league hockey team on land that an out-of-town billionaire has been sitting on for decades. Niagara Falls has a chance to reshape itself into something closer to its full potential. Much of the reason downtown Niagara Falls' potential has been stalled rests with the New York City billionaire Howard Milstein, who has had a death grip on more than 142 acres for 30 years and hasn't done anything with it. Finally, Mayor Robert Restaino, unlike frustrated mayors who come before him, will have the opportunity to create something spectacular on long dormant property that really should have been in the hands of officials long ago. As reported by the News' Jonathan Epstein, the Niagara Falls City Council last week approved an agreement with Milstein's Niagara Falls redevelopment that will result in the city acquiring 10 acres of land it needed for its $210 million Centennial Park project along John B. Daly Boulevard. In exchange for the donation of land by NFR, the city approved a new zoning district for 43 acres of adjacent land that NFR wants for its proposed $1.5 million data center campus called the Niagara Digital Campus. Nothing in the agreement requires NFR to move forward with development, and Restaino voiced well-founded skepticism about NFR ever bringing the data center to fruition. Agreed. The company's track record demonstrates more inertia than productivity, but as the mayor said, it is up to the landholder. Bottom line, getting this far with NFR and after all these decades is encouraging. The agreement was reached under a state judge's guidance, as Restaino, who praised Supreme Court Justice Deborah Chimes for her critical role in the negotiation and approval of the deal, said, "All that's left now is the paperwork that transfers the property, so the city can respond with a resounding yes to the question asked by so many for so many years, do you have the land yet?" As Restaino said, the court-ordered settlement conveys more heft than parties coming together to establish contractual or other settlement. The praise Restaino heaps upon Chimes is understandable and should be joined by equal gratitude from those who care about the potential of this beleaguered city. The Centennial Park project, which the mayor envisions as a gateway park and events campus, would feature an oval-shaped indoor arena and ice rink that could also host concerts and other big events, as well as a secondary ice facility for practice, the parking ramp, and abundant green space. The arena facility itself will have a seating capacity of 6,000 with stadium seating, 3 times the size of the Niagara Falls Convention Center and the event center at the Seneca Niagara Falls Hotel and Casino across the street, both of which just have basic floor seating with an elevated stage. And there is more to be excited about, as the city has been in preliminary discussions with the Ontario Hockey League about getting a franchise for Niagara Falls. Restaino discussed using general fund reserves for the $4.03 million payment to NFR. He'll have helped in the form of a public-private partnership for construction, with a private entity running the facility while the state provides assistance on a level similar to other major projects in other cities, like High Bank Stadium or Key Bank Center. For years, the question was whether Niagara Falls would ever gain control of the land needed to move forward. Now that answer is finally yes. What comes next could be a major step in the long-awaited revitalization of the city's downtown.
And in another voice, Comptroller needs independent oversight. Buffalo deserves better than a narrative that confuses caution with obstruction. Let me be clear. I have not refused to fund infrastructure. I have refused to sign off on borrowing that puts our city's financial future at serious risk without a clear plan to pay it back. And this is by Barbara Miller-Williams. As Comptroller, my job is not to rubber stamp spending. It is to ask hard questions and demand accountability. When I requested a prioritized list of shovel-ready projects from then-Mayor Christopher Scanlon for fiscal year 24-25, I was not playing politics. I was simply doing my job. That list never came, yet I was still expected to approve the borrowing of more than $109 million, nearly 4 times the $28 million debt cap supported by my department's financial analysis. That is not responsible governance. Here's what should concern every taxpayer. While I am being criticized for restraint, the city is already sitting on more than $293 million in open projects that hasn't been utilized. Before we take on more debt, shouldn't we ask why that money is still sitting idle? This lawsuit to force the city to establish a precedent of excessive borrowing goes even further. Attempting to relegate the office of the Comptroller to spectator status turns independent oversight into a mere formality. That should alarm anyone who cares about transparency and accountability. Borrowing is not abstract. It translates directly into higher property taxes and fees. Many families in Buffalo are already feeling the effects from rising costs. Pushing through excessive debt without a clear repayment plan risks making that burden even heavier now and in the years ahead. I have supported debt issuance for projects that are shovel-ready and backed by state and federal reimbursement. I will continue to support fiscally responsible borrowing. That's how we should move forward. Strategically, responsibility, and with citizens and taxpayers in mind. My decision to appeal is about more than just this moment. It's about protecting the integrity of our financial system, maintaining checks and balances established in our city charter, and ensuring that every dollar borrowed is a dollar we can afford to repay. Buffalo's future depends not just on spending more, but on spending wisely. Barbara Miller-Williams is Comptroller of the City of Buffalo.
And the editorial cartoon, we have a drawing of Barry Weiss holding a machine gun, and he's got very long hair and wearing glasses. I don't know if that's really what he looks like or not, but yes. And it's 60 minutes, the ticking stopwatch that goes around, click, 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 the news magazine. And he is destroying 60 Minutes with his machine gun, which, of course, we all know is happening today.
You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. The time is 29 minutes after the hour. Sorry for interrupting.
That's okay, not a problem. I like when you interrupt me.
Gives you a chance to breathe.
That's right. And from Susan Estrich, an article entitled Homelessness is a Problem We Can Address. I was stopped at a red light when I noticed a man on the sidewalk pouring water over his head. He had a big bucket and a cup that he filled with water from the bucket to dump over his head. At first, I thought he might be trying to cool off, but it wasn't that hot of a day. It was a long light, and I realized he was taking a shower, as it were. When the light changed, I was embarrassed to pull away. What is wrong with us? I'm tired of the debate about whether homelessness is a housing problem or a mental health one. It's some of both, obviously. According to every study I've read, most homeless people are on the street because they don't have a place to live. Big surprise. If offered a safe, secure place they can afford, they would take it in a minute. But those aren't on offering very often. And yes, there are some crazy people out there and some scary ones too, which means they need even more help, and we can't force them to take advantage of help that in most places simply doesn't exist. We depend on the police to keep us safe, but they can't solve the problem of homelessness and the fear that it engenders on all sides. Some of the fear is fact-based, most is not. But how do you tell the difference? When you see a homeless person you don't know, how do you know whether to cross the street or drive on or give them a donut? It's even worse when you see children with them begging. Is there a law against that? What if they're really hungry? Sure, you can blame the parents, but what good does that do? Between 2023 and 24, the U.S. experienced an unprecedented 18% rise in homelessness, from 653,000 people during the 2023 point in time, or PIT count, to over 771,000 people during the 24 PIT. Experts attribute the increase to the affordability crisis, which has only gotten worse. No one wants to step over a person as they walk down the street, so many of us avoid any contact at all. It does not solve the problem. Homelessness is not a blight, although that is often how it feels. It is a human tragedy. But unlike many human tragedies, which we are powerless to address, homelessness is a problem we can address. We can continue the endless debate of whether homelessness is fundamentally a housing problem as opposed to a homeless being a mental illness and addiction problem. Or we can recognize that it is, of course, both, and we need to address both. Then we can clear the streets. But we can't clear the streets, at least not for more than a few days at a time, if we don't have safe and affordable shelter on offer. And that won't be enough for those with serious mental illness or addiction issues if it doesn't also come with services. And all that is very expensive. The war against Iran cost more. The most widely cited federal estimate is that 771,480 people were experiencing homelessness in the U.S. on a single night in January of 24. The official cost of the war in Iran as of mid-May was $29 billion, but independent experts put the real direct military cost closer to $70 billion. And then longer term, there are the downstream expenses that could take the number to the hundreds of billions. Imagine we spent that money smartly in a coordinated way to attack homelessness. Using even the most conservative numbers, it's some $37,000 per person, which should be enough. Imagine what we could have accomplished.
Yeeks. All right, the biggest threat to nation security isn't Iran, it's Trump, says Trudy Rubin. The biggest national security threat the United States faces at this moment is President Trump. Nothing illustrates that threat more clearly than the president's pick of MAGA attack dog Billy Pulte, who has zero experience in the intelligence field, as acting czar of all 18 U.S. intelligence agency. This choice is a neon sign flashing out Trump's utter scorn for and distrust of the U.S. intelligence community. His willingness to ignore them or destroy them is a major reason for his dangerous failures in dealing with Russia, China, and his war of choice in Iran. At a time when the threat stream couldn't be higher and the FIFA matches are about to start, an appointment like this, even if it's temporary, is extremely concerning. I was told by former 9-term U.S. Representative Jane Harman from California, who was ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee. If GOP senators who know better fail to join a bipartisan revolt against this presidential choice, they are equally guilty of enhancing the chance of serious terrorist attacks on the homeland and further U.S. disasters abroad. An intense Trump ally who heads the Federal Housing Finance Agency, Pulte is best known for using his current post to pursue highly suspect criminal referrals for alleged mortgage fraud against Trump foes. They include New York Attorney General Letitia James and California Senator Adam Schiff, along with Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, whose removal would advance the president's efforts to politicize the Fed. Pulte will also keep his old position, as if the complex director of National Intelligence post is just merely an add-on. To give you a bit more flavor of Pulte's persona, the well-sourced Axios news site revealed in April that before Trump posted a highly controversial image of himself as a Christ-like healer, he discussed the meme with Pulte. 2 Trump advisors told Axios that it was Pulte who brought the image to the president's attention. So now Trump is effectively telling Americans, forget, he would substitute another F word here, having a director of national intelligence who can coordinate the agencies tasked with protecting the homeland. I want a capo who will advance my campaign of revenge and retribution and slavishly promote my image. Indeed, by choosing Pulte, Trump is only continuing his open attack on U.S. intelligence agencies. Ever since the CIA and FBI correctly concluded that Russia had tried to intervene in the 2016 election, he has vilified them as part of a deep state that seeks to undermine his administration. Pulte's predecessor was the former Democratic U.S. Representative Tulsi Gabbard, who often mauled Russia propaganda. She was picked not because of any competence in the intelligence field, but because Trump wanted to use her to pursue his perceived foes. That included her highly improper interference in an investigation of alleged 2020 election irregularities in Georgia. Part of Gabbard's task was to echo Trump's unending grievance over claims of Russia interference in the 2016 election. Apparently, she didn't try hard enough to abuse the role of DNI, even though she publicly accused former President Barack Obama of pushing a narrative on the 2016 election he knew to be false. So, she was pushed out. Now Pulte has the chance to do a better job. The terrible distortion of the role intelligence plays has left Trump wide open to foreign manipulation. Who can forget how he stood beside Russian leader Vladimir Putin at the Helsinki summit in 2018 and said publicly that he trusted the Russia ex-KGB colonel more than his own intelligence agency, even as Putin was mouthing blatant Russian propaganda. Any intelligent analysis that contradict Trump's gut instincts are dismissed. Other sources, such as detailed bipartisan report by the Republican-led Senate Intelligence Committee that concluded there was attempted Russian election interference in 2016, they're just ignored. Trump is famous for disdaining the president's regular intelligence briefings, in large part because, as he constantly repeats, he believes he knows more than the briefers. Such incredible naivete is based in large part on his conviction that his personal relationship with Putin and China's Xi Jinping guarantees that he can best them. Unfortunately, as the world sees clearly, the opposite is true. Trump's refusal to accept vital information has left him unprepared to deter these strong men. His willful ignorance endangers all of us. It is why he keeps insisting Ukraine has no cards to counter Putin's aggression. It is why he refuses to grasp Putin's domestic weakness and Ukraine's amazing achievements in drone warfare. It is why he refuses to recognize that Putin is determined to undermine Europe and the United States. It is heavily responsible for his misinterpretation of Xi's thinking and his refusal to stand up for Taiwan. It is why he misunderstands the vital need to ally with European and Asian democracies in order to restrain China's expansionist urges. And today, it explains Trump's stunning failure in his misbegotten Iran war. Someone who is so disinterested in details of Iran's nuclear program and of past nuclear diplomacy is ill-equipped to stop it. Someone who rejects intelligence briefing but dispatches equally ignorant negotiators like real estate magnate Steve Witkoff to Iran, Israel, and Russia cannot succeed in preventing a bomb. Consider the Pulte appointment an irrefutable message. This president does not give a damn about your security, but only about retribution and enhancing his own power. Those GOP senators who know better but refuse to join Democrats in curbing Trump's threats to American safety are enabling his destruction of U.S. security institutions. Their choice is clear. Stop Pulte and other such Trump nominations now, or share the blame when their boss's blindness facilitates terror attacks at home and U.S. failures abroad.
That is a scary proposition. And from Laura Washington, Pope Leo's apology for slavery is a start, but church must atone. Pope Leo XIV's apology for the Catholic Church's sins of slavery is long overdue. With that apology must come atonement. Leo apologized for the Holy See's role in legitimizing slavery and for having failed to condemn it for centuries, calling the Vatican's record a wound in Christian memory, one from which we cannot consider ourselves detached. Experts have deemed the move, which called out the Church's role in propagating the slave trade, as historic. It arrived in the Pope's 43,000-word encyclical Magnificat Humanitas. Past popes have apologized for Christians' involvement in the transatlantic slave trade, but the Associated Press reported. But no pope has ever publicly acknowledged, much less apologized for, the role that past popes played in giving European sovereigns explicit and authority to subjugate and enslave infidels. In the encyclical, Leo wrote, "It is impossible not to feel deep sorrow when contemplating the immense suffering and humiliation endured by so many in stark contrast to their immeasurable dignity as persons infinitely loved by the Lord. For this, in the name of the Church, I sincerely ask for pardon." It could not come soon enough. As the AP story noted, Black American Catholics, activists, and scholars have long called for the Holy See to atone for its role in the colonial-era trade in human beings beyond generic apologies for the involvement of individual Christians. This lifelong Black Catholic bears no illusions about the sins of my church. African American Catholics have long been discriminated against and excluded by our church and community. I have lived it in small but painful ways as a child growing up in a segregated Chicago. In the all-black elementary schools I attended, the nuns would favor the children with the lighter skin and straighter hair for special attention and praise. I recall my brother's tales of getting singled out for corporal punishment by the white priests and brothers at his all-boys school, Catholic high school. And I remember how in the 1960s, many good Catholic families fled their Chicago neighborhoods the minute a black family moved in. Some of those good Catholics were behind racist attacks on the newcomers. Today, African Americans remain far from full participants in the church's hierarchy and power. Leo's apology is a start, but much is left undone. For many Black Catholics and descendants of enslaved Africans, the apology may land as both historic and unfinished, reports Grio, a news website that focused on Black politics and culture. There is much unfinished business ahead. For starters, there is one urgent mission the Pope must take on the road to atonement. He must crusade against the racist and bigoted policies of President Trump. The Trump administration has removed references and artifacts that preserve the nation's racial history from museums and libraries. Trump's social media feed and rhetoric overflow with racial diatribes. He nods to white supremacy and welcomes the embrace of white supremacists. Where is the church? We are living in a time when self-professed Catholics are not only turning a blind eye to evil, but have elected and are supporting President Donald Trump, who is against diversity, against immigrants, against the poor, and seeks to destroy the multiracial democracy that was hard fought and won by the sweat and blood of African Americans and progressives in the United States, Alessandra Harris wrote last year in the National Catholic Reporter. Harris, a black Catholic who frequently writes on racial issues, noted that 59% of white Catholics voted for Trump in the 2024 presidential election, according to PRRI, a nonprofit, nonpartisan public opinion research organization. Trump has portrayed himself as a messianic figure. He is an egomaniac, but clearly also threatened by this Pope. The Pope should take every opportunity to hammer away at Trump's oppressive words and actions that aim to reverse the hard-fought decades of legislation, sacrifice, and protest that have battled the racism and bigotry wrought by slavery. The world's most powerful politician is assiduously attempting to reverse racial progress and erase America's stain of racism. The world's most powerful religious leader can and must step up to condemn and combat him. And all good Catholics should be right there with him.
On a lighter note, let's look at the royal stars. Happy birthday for Tuesday, June the 9th. You are curious and versatile, yet tenacious. You have high personal standards and remain true to your beliefs. This is a year of teaching and learning. Renew your spiritual or religious beliefs. If you are Aries, this is a wonderful day to entertain at home because you feel affectionate to others, especially family members. Tonight, you win. Taurus, this is a wonderful day to schmooze with others, especially your daily contacts. Reach out to siblings, your neighbors, and relatives. People will be friendly and upbeat. But tonight, enjoy your privacy. Geminis, this is a warm, happy day for everyone. You might meet someone unusual or someone you know might surprise you. So tonight, be friendly. Cancer, this is a fantastic day for you because fair Venus and lucky Jupiter are lined up in your sign, creating warm feelings in all of your relationships. And tonight, you will be admired. Leos, this is a feel-good day. For starters, this is a popular week for powerful discussions about politics and religion or legal and medical matters. Tonight, take some time to explore. Virgos, make a point to reach out to a friend or get involved with a group today. This will be a rewarding experience for you. Tonight, you better check your finances. Libras, today is the day to ask for what you want because you look fabulous in the eyes of others. Tonight, listen and cooperate. You look fabulous. Scorpios, grab every chance to travel today because you want to learn, study, meet new people, and encounter new adventures. Yes, you want it all. Tonight, better get organized. Sagittarius, financial transactions will favor you today because this is the perfect day. Perhaps the best day in the year, wow, to discuss how to share something. Tonight, socialize. Capricorns, even though you're in work mode, this is a marvelous day to schmooze. Playful activities will appeal. Tonight you can relax. Aquarius, this is a great day to party. It's also the perfect time for vacation. Sports events, fun activities with kids, the theater, the film industry, and the hospitality world are all blessed. Tonight you will have discussions. Pisces, this is the most romantic day of the year. Ooh, if you can't have a planned occasion with someone else, just go out and treat yourself. Tonight, maintain your possessions. Treat yourself, but maintain your possessions.
Okay, and as part of our newspaper reading, we now present the day's death listings. If you need further information on any of these names, you can call us at 716-821-5555. Ola M. Apfel, Nee Kempker, the great Jerry Meehan, Edward L. Novak, James R. O'Neill, Leo Paul Petrie, known as LP, Reverend James Merrill Pollard, Patrick J. Byrne, Ronald Mueller, Ethel T. Monroe, Trevor J. Carney, and the ex-senator Bob Packwood has passed away at the age of 93, and Eric Zagscorn Sr. Again, if you need further information on any of these names, please call us at 716-821-5555. That's 716-821-5555.
Do you remember last week's article about the flesh-eating screwworms?
I do.
Well, I've got an update for you.
All right, let's hear it.
Right.
Yeah.
3 new screwworm cases found as ranchers brace for the spread. The U.S. confirmed 3 additional cases of New World screwworm on Monday, raising the total number of cases to 5 since the first domestic screwworm infestation in 6 decades was found in a Texas calf just last week. New World screwworm is a serious pest that can infest any warm-blooded animal, including livestock, pets, wildlife, and in rare cases, people. The larvae burrow into the living tissue of animals, causing severe wounds, animal suffering, and significant economic losses. Texas ranchers have been bracing for screwworm to cross into the U.S. for the past year as the pest advanced north. Experts have predicted that a widespread outbreak could cost the state $1.8 billion in economic damage and actually devastate the wildlife. APHIS clarified that a 5th case that reported earlier on Monday in a dog in Andrews County would be reclassified as the first case detected in New Mexico. The veterinarian who reported the case is located in Texas, but the dog resides in New Mexico. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins said at a Monday press conference in Caryville, Texas, that the agency would soon begin announcing recipients of awards from a $100 million fund for screwworm technologies. We now know what the enemy looks like, she said, standing in front of posters that read, "War on Screwworm." However, local Texas residents and ranchers remain split over whether to trust the USDA's response, with some farmers saying it's too slow or not far-reaching enough, while those who lived through the last outbreak said the news has further eroded their trust in the agency, prompting them to search for their own solutions. On Friday, about 100 ranchers in mud-splattered boots and cowboy hats packed a small high school cafeteria for a Texas Animal Health Commission briefing on screwworm. They peppered officials with questions, and they vented frustration over what they saw as a slow federal response. As Texans, we're not afraid to take this on, said John Paul Schuster, a 55-year-old rancher and Kinney Court judge, to applause and approving nods from the audience. Some ranchers have proposed raising money to build a privately funded sterile fly production plant. A startup cost would be roughly $4 million. Screwworms were originally eradicated from the United States when researchers began releasing massive numbers of sterilized male screwworm flies that mate with female screwworms to produce infertile eggs. Current sterile fly production is far short of what is needed to suppress the outbreak, though 2 new plants are under construction. After the meeting, Shambuster lambasted what he saw as the slow pace of sterile fly plant construction, saying a wider infestation could endanger the ranching and hunting industries crucial to the economy for Kinney County's 3,000 residents. If it's not controlled in 2 years and eradicated in 5 years, my little county will be done, Schuster said. Though the USDA has detailed its strategy for containing screwworm, some ranchers have bristled at what they view as a lack of transparency, including the agency's decision not to disclose exact coordinates where sterile flies are being released. We need to know what's being done because it's our financial investment. It's our livelihood that's on the line, Story said. They're not betting their herd, they're betting ours. Other ranchers dismissed the USDA's recommendations, including daily inspections and preventive treatments, as impractical for operations that span thousands of acres, face severe labor shortages, and lack skilled cowboys. It's not really feasible. There's no more cowboys anymore, and there's no good ranch horses, said DJ Rubio, a 62-year-old rancher and Story's husband. That's the screwworm.
Oh, let's talk about other diseases.
Okay.
All right, the U.S. wastewater is being screened during World Cup. Epidemiologists will be busy this summer sifting through sewage and social media with the goal of keeping soccer fans and the public safe from severe illness during the World Cup, one of the largest and most globally diverse mass gatherings ever anticipated. A public health squad based in Washington, D.C. plans to monitor wastewater and internet chatter to detect and track infectious diseases should they emerge in any of the U.S. or Canadian cities hosting World Cup players, their matches, and millions of spectators, organizers said. The 39-day event kicks off in Mexico on Thursday. More than 6.5 million soccer fans are expected to travel from over 100 countries to witness 104 games in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. The scale of the event and the global spanning travel involved poses a heightened risk of rapid disease transmission at a time when strained U.S. public health resources are coping at home and abroad with outbreaks of measles, Ebola, hantavirus, health security experts say. Budget and staffing cuts under the Trump administration, along with the U.S. withdrawal from the World Health Organization, have exacerbated those challenges, according to organizers of the new disease tracking initiative. Stepping in to provide real-time data about potential threats, the newly formed team of public health experts has converted a Georgetown University lab into an epidemiological command post. The facility brings together academic institutions, nonprofit organizations, and private companies working in support of government agencies. The team is already preparing a daily status report to flag emergency risks and any immediate need for action to hospital emergency managers and public health authorities at the local, state, federal, and international levels, as well as FIFA, soccer's governing body and organizer of the World Cup. The Operations Center, launched in collaboration with the MedStar Health Regional Hospital chain, is also a trial run for future events, including the 2028 Summer Olympics in LA. MedStar hosts one of the nation's 13 biocontainment units. Detecting disease-causing microorganisms in wastewater can signal an outbreak in the making, giving health officials time to warn medical clinicians to look out for symptoms of diseases that might otherwise be misdiagnosed and to urge the public to take precautions. Considerable media attention is focused on the current Ebola crisis in Africa, but Katz said the often fatal hemorrhagic fever poses a very low risk to the general public in North America. The World Cup team and support staff from the Democratic Republic of Congo, the country at the epicenter of the Ebola outbreak, have been undergoing a precautionary quarantine in Belgium before traveling to the U.S., although most of the players were in Europe at the time of the outbreak. Katz said her team would be paying special attention to the spread of measles, which is approaching a record for U.S. cases numbers this year, around 2,000 so far, and has resurged in parts of Mexico and Canada.
You're listening to reading of articles from the Buffalo News for today, June the 9th, on your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. We will return for more readings after this short break. Your readers today are Lori and
Lita.
If you're listening to this publication online, you're probably using our website, a podcast player like Spotify or iTunes, a streaming service like Siro, or a smart speaker. Did you know that we now have a dedicated app that can be downloaded to any mobile device, like a smartphone or tablet, for free? App users can conveniently access our live stream and any episode of our podcast easier than ever. To download the app, just type NFRRS in the search window in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. Contact us anytime if you have any questions by calling 716-821-5555, extension 5. Thank you.
And we'll continue now with our reading of articles from today's Buffalo News. Your readers are
Lori and
Lita. And FISA fight comes to a head in Congress this week. Republicans in Congress face two major tasks this week: wrapping up Reconciliation 2.0 and renewing a controversial spy powers authority before it expires Friday. The House returns with the final sprint to clear roughly $70 billion for immigration enforcement through President Trump's term, which GOP leaders are hoping to finish in the first half of the week. The Senate passed the reconciliation package early Friday after voting down a number of amendments aimed at limiting a Justice Department anti-weaponization fund, which critics call a White House slush fund. Speaker Mike Johnson is expected a straightforward vote, that is, if he can get members to show up. Attendance have been an issue for both parties due to midterm primary elections. On Tuesday, voters in Maine, Nevada, North Dakota, and South Carolina will head to the polls, which complicates the schedule. With such a tight margin, Johnson can only afford to lose a few GOP votes, empowering firebrands in the party to hold out on big partisan bills in an effort to extract promises on other policy priorities. But the biggest frustrations of the week will likely come as lawmakers figure out what to do about Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act before Friday's expiration. Complicating the fight is Trump's insistence on appointing Bill Pulte to be the acting director of national intelligence. Last week, the Senate failed to move ahead on a long-term reauthorization of the key surveillance power in a 47-52 vote. Democrats have raised concerns over Pulte's lack of intelligence experience, as well as his past referrals of some of Trump's perceived foes to the Department of Justice for mortgage fraud allegations as head of the Federal Housing Finance Agency. Trump has said Pulte wouldn't be in the DNI role permanently, but wouldn't mind if he shrinks the office along the way. Last week's delay has complicated the possibility of achieving a long-term extension, and privacy hawks are calling for further changes beyond those in the bipartisan deal unveiled at the beginning of last week. Bill Pulte's appointment as acting director of national intelligence is a symptom of the larger problem. Warrantless FISA surveillance depends on a handful of government officials to choose not to misuse the most powerful spying apparatus the world has ever seen, Senator Ron Wyden said in a statement. Firing Pulte won't solve the real problem. Americans are demanding real protections written into the law, not promises that the next guy will be trustworthy. Senator Majority Leader John Thune said a short-term extension of FISA is obviously something that the administration will have to consider. I just think that it would be a dangerous mistake for the country, he said, of the program going dark. Hopefully, responsible folks will come to the table and help us at least figure this out. But there are a ton of reforms in there. I mean, this was a bipartisan, bicameral, four corners deal that everybody had pretty much signed off on, and the naming of Pulte of that position, although the timing arguably wasn't the best, I still don't think it ought to derail something that's this important. I just don't. A Senate Republican leadership aide said the Senate is keeping all options on the table, but they are looking to Mark Warner to convince his members to come along and vote for the bill that he negotiated. It's not clear where Johnson falls on a short-term extension yet, although he continues to push for a long-term solution. A House leadership aide said they're waiting to see what or if the Senate can pass in the way of an extension.
And in higher education, a $5.6 million athletics facility is opening at SUNY Erie North. With all the investment that's gone into collegiate sports facilities in recent years, SUNY Erie Community College was decades behind in the quality of its outdoor athletic fields. It got to the point where many local high schools had better facilities than SUNY Erie has had for its college students, said Erie County Executive Mark Poloncarz. But that's no longer the case, with the opening of a new $5.7 million state-of-the-art multi-sport turf facility on SUNY's Erie's North Campus. This is as good or better than pretty much any high school in New York and comparable to most community colleges around, Poloncarz said Monday at the ribbon cutting for the Amherst facility, which will host its first games in August. We have a great community college, but we had a third or fourth rate sports facility for a good institution that has had success on the fields, he added. We needed to make an investment that was commensurate of the school and the students here. The facility, funded by both the county and the state, helps to centralize the school's outdoor fields, which for years were split between the north and south campuses, with SUNY Erie City Campus hosting indoor winter sports like basketball and swimming. That changed when roughly 57 acres of athletic fields, including the school's football stadium at the now former SUNY Erie South Campus, were transferred to the state for the Buffalo Bills Stadium construction project back in 2022. It led to the construction of the new fields, which officials hope will provide a more welcoming environment for prospective student athletes. The fields also will be available for community use for events, including tournaments and specialized clinics. Even before SUNY Erie gave up its football field on the South Campus so it could be used for the Bills' more than $2 billion stadium project, plans were in the works for a new facility, including a new home for the school's Gridiron program in Amherst. The SUNY Erie South Campus has since moved to a smaller footprint on Cobham Drive. Meanwhile, the football team has been playing at neighboring Williamsville South High School for home games. The school had access to the land already on the county-owned North Campus, which saved money and helped make it a more seamless transition. The Amherst campus also has the largest student population of the school's 3 campuses, and there are shuttles that can take students to each location. It made sense to have one unified location for sports fields, Poloncarz says. This project actually was pretty much confirmed even before we had agreement on the location of the football stadium for the Bills. So we knew that we were going to build here. The new sports complex includes a synthetic turf multipurpose field for both soccer and football, as well as an adjacent field for softball, all covered with Cats and SUNY Erie logos in the school's colors of red and black. The baseball team will also be able to train in the complex. A second phase of the project will include a turf field for baseball on the west side of the athletic complex towards Young Road. Before that, a building with locker rooms, bathrooms, and concessions will be built and likely open next summer, said Steve Mullen, director of athletics at that school. The soccer season will open on the field August 28th, and the first home football game will be August 29th. The softball team will begin play on its new field in the spring of 2027. Both the Cats football and softball teams won NGCAA Region 3 championships during the 25-26 school year. I'm excited for the kids, and that's what it's all about, Mullen said. We have a lot of students from this community who are going to be able to participate on this field. This gives our coaches one more tool to sell the college to prospective students. Adam Seagay, president of SUNY Erie, said the college will continue to invest in the infrastructure of its campuses to help provide the best opportunities and value for students as the higher education landscape changes. The next phase of the athletic field project will bring a new turf baseball field, but the timing on that is still uncertain, according to college officials. The current baseball diamond will be left intact until a new one is built. Well, that's good. It is also expected to be a community asset. The great advantage of it is it's not just going to sit there, Poloncarz said. It will be used by other sports leagues and teams and for tournaments, as long as the school is not using it for their student activities.
That's awesome. And so Apple has a Siri problem. Did you know that?
I did not.
Well, it's about to roll out a fix. For one of his final major public moments, Apple's CEO, Tim Cook, hopes to give Wall Street something it's long been waiting for, answers about the company's artificial intelligence strategy. Apple is expected to reveal an all-new version of Siri on Monday as its worldwide developer conference, potentially bringing the roughly 15-year-old virtual assistant up to speed with OpenAI's ChatGPT and Google's Gemini. The tech giant will also announce software updates that will impact the billions of iPhones, iPads, Macs, and Apple Watches around the world. But the new Siri could be the biggest indication yet of how Apple is revamping its products as more people use chatbots and AI agents for everyday tasks. Many will be looking to see whether Apple's history of turning nascent technologies into popular products will apply to AI. Apple has fallen behind in the AI race. Its Siri overhaul has faced delays, and some features that were announced in 2024 still haven't arrived. And its current AI tools for iPhones, iPads, and Macs, called Apple Intelligence, aren't distinctive enough to stand out from the competition. Apple has rolled out features for translating speech, helping users search for content displayed on their iPhone screen, and generating custom emojis. But companies like Google and OpenAI are launching AI agents they say can handle entire tasks on a user's behalf. Apple hasn't done anything that really blows people away, said Gene Munster, co-founder and managing partner of tech investment firm Deepwater Asset Management. The upgraded Siri could help Apple catch up. Apple's digital helper may soon be able to handle multiple tasks with a single command and get a dedicated app with a chatbot-style interface, among other changes. Apple is partnering with Google on the models that will power its new Siri, the company announced in January, which could significantly improve the digital assistant's performance, according to Anurag Rana, a senior equity analyst for software and IT service at Bloomberg Intelligence. Gemini models have been just on a tear, Rana said. They have been doing really well right now. Investors and analysts have grilled Apple about its AI strategy on earnings call over the past year. Although iPhone sales have been thriving, Wall Street wants to know how AI plays into the company's long-term vision. It will soon be up to incoming Apple CEO John Ternus, who currently oversees Apple hardware engineering and will take over as chief executive in September. Cook will transition into a new role as executive chairman of the board of directors. But Apple's large market share, more than 2.5 billion Apple devices are in use globally, could give it an edge. That could be Apple's big opportunity. More than half of iPhones in use globally, or about 1 billion iPhones, don't support Apple Intelligence, since the technology is only available on the iPhone 15 Pro and later. They're not going to mess it up, Munster said. They've got too much at stake to drop the ball.
Hopefully. Motorcycle crashes killed 2 over the weekend, adding to a fatal trend. 2 motorcyclists died in separate crashes over the weekend in Allegheny County and East Aurora. They are the 3rd and 4th motorcyclists to die in crashes over a 12-day span since May 27th in western New York. A motorcyclist died Saturday night in a one-vehicle crash in Allegheny County, state police said on Monday. The crash happened on State Road 70 in the town of Burns. Around 10:30 p.m., troopers found an unoccupied motorcycle on the north side of the shoulder of the road. Troopers found the operator, Jason P. Mess, age 50, of Canasarega, dead in a nearby ditch, police said. Investigators determined Mess's 2024 Kawasaki was traveling west and exited the road into the north shoulder, hitting a signpost and ejecting Mess. The East Aurora crash was reported at 12:42 p.m. Sunday in the area of 691 Mill Road, East Aurora, police said on Monday. Emergency responders found the motorcycle operator with serious life-threatening injuries. Brian Bratos, age 38, of East Aurora, was pronounced dead at the scene. The Mill Road crash remains under investigation. These fatal crashes over the weekend are just the latest to happen in western New York. A 21-year-old Lockport man was killed Wednesday on Fisk Road in a crash investigators believed may have been caused by extreme speed and driver inexperience. Investigators estimated Matthew J. Lauer was traveling at least 85 miles per hour, possibly up to triple digits, when he struck an SUV turning into a driveway, according to state police. Lauer was driving with a learner's permit to operate the motorcycle. A 68-year-old Derby man was killed May 27th in a crash on Zorberry Road in Collins, the Erie County Sheriff's Office said. So those motorcyclists really need to pay attention to speed limits, and we need to keep our eyes open and keep watching.
Yeah, that's true. I'll tell you, where I live, I can hear on the young men every night around the same time those going
Racing?
Racing, just racing. It's like, my goodness. Anyway, you were listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier radio reading service, and the time is 15 minutes past the hour. And why was a City of Tonawanda veterinarian willing to jeopardize her license and her reputation to obscure a dog's identity to prevent the pet's return to its owner? This question has hung over the case against Kimberly Parkhill Brown since she was charged last fall, and it's one that baffled the judge who sentenced her on Monday. I'm just dumbfounded as to why this occurred, North Tonawanda City Court Judge Sean Nickerson said, adding, "Because of this, you're at risk of throwing your entire career away." The pre-sentencing report and the civil lawsuit filed by the dog's owners against Parkhill Brown offered one explanation. The veterinarian didn't want the Yorkshire Terrier returned to its home after she learned the owner lived on the Tuscarora Indian Reservation because, Parkhill Brown reportedly said, reservation residents don't take good care of their dogs. In turn, Nickerson ordered her to perform 100 hours of community service, not with a dog rescue agency, but with an organization serving the Native American community. Parkhill Brown's conditions discharge sentence also requires her to pay $1,000 in restitution to Monica Krogan, the dog's owner, and write her an apology. Krogan and her husband Frederick lost their dog Benji for 6 months because of Parkhill Brown's deception. They didn't appear Monday in Tonawanda City Court, but called the case a nightmare in their suit. Why? "What made you wake up and judge me today?" Monica Krogan told the Buffalo News prior to sentencing. "You don't know me." Why? But her karma is coming right now. Her karma did come. Parkhill Brown, who's 47, admitted changing Benji's name in her clinic reports and removing the dog's microchip to further alter its identity. "I'm here to apologize," Parkhill Brown read in court Monday from a prepared statement, her voice breaking. "I want to assure the court that I am guilty." The Krogans paid $850 to buy Benji from a breeder in Darien in August in 2023 when the teacup Yorkie was about 8 weeks old. Benji was an emotional support animal for Monica Krogan and helped ease the symptoms of her anxiety and depression, and that's why Monica Krogan said she was so distressed when he was taken. It happened on the 17th of July in 2024 when someone visiting Fritz's Joint, a cannabis dispensary on the Krogans' Walmore Road property, found Benji wandering around. Tyler Fabian brought Benji from Sanborn to the town of Tonawanda home of his grandmother, Deborah Grand, who took the dog to McBride Animal Hospital. McBride staff scanned the dog for a microchip, which was encoded with Frederick Krogan's contact information. Monica Krogan claims she was asked to produce proof of ownership when a McBride employee called and was hung up on twice. When she called back, she was told the person who brought Benji in had left with the dog. Krogan said this occurred after the practice learned she lived on the Tuscarora Reservation. "I could tell something wasn't right," Krogan said in the interview. Monica Krogan said her efforts to use social media to find Benji were stymied by Parkhill Brown, who asked Facebook group administrators to take down Krogan's posts because the veterinarian insisted Krogan was lying about what happened. In fact, Krogan said, she was vindicated by a 16th of November City of Tonawanda police report. "Everybody thought I was nuts, and I was right," Krogan told the news. That day, Paul Harper, identified as the owner of McBride Animal Hospital, met with the police. He told officer a McBride employee, Nicole Strong, had recently revealed the true nature of what happened to Benji. Parkhill Brown allowed Grand to leave with Benji because Harper relayed to the police she did not want the dog to return to its home on Tuscarora Indian Reservation. Harper said a file for Benji was started in McBride initially under the name Buddy and later as Bianca, who was listed as a female Dachshund mix. Bianca's record shows she was neutered and had a mass on her back removed at McBride, Harper reported. However, Strong told Harper the mass removal surgery masked a procedure performed by Parkhill Brown to remove Benji's microchip and replace it with a new chip. Parkhill Brown obtained this chip from her husband, Dr. Christopher Brown, a vet at Canton Animal. I know, really, what a conspiracy. Harper told police he wanted to return Benji to the Krogans, who got their dog back in January of 2025. He came to me and he just licked me and licked me, Krogan said, remembering their reunion. The Krogans in May 2025 sued Parker Hill Brown McBride Animal Hospital, Harper, and other parties for $1 million in other relief. Defendant Park Hill expressed that she believes those living on an Indian reservation lack both the resources and the moral character to take care of an animal the way white people, such as her and defendant Grant, can, the complaint contends. The defendants denied wrongdoing, with Harper's attorney emphasizing Harper reported to police everything he knew as soon as he knew it. The suit was settled in February for an undisclosed amount of money. Park Hill Brown was criminally charged last fall. She was charged with falsifying business records, both felony and misdemeanor counts, as well as companion animal stealing, an unclassified misdemeanor under the state's agriculture and market law. She pled guilty in January to misdemeanor falsifying business records and to companion animal stealing. Her sentencing was delayed from March to April, again to Monday. Nickerson presided over Tonawanda City Court Judge Dean Lilac recused himself. Lilac informed the state unified court system he took this step to avoid any question of his impartiality because certain letters of support for Park Hill Brown in the defense's sentencing memo could be perceived as unduly influential, without elaborating. At sentencing, Park Hill Brown's lawyer, Barry Covert, said his client's actions were out of character for her. She had let everyone down and she knows it. The lawyer said Park Hill Brown was in counseling and on medication for treatment of depression and anxiety. Park Hill Brown said she has found a new job at a vet clinic and she is rededicating herself to carrying out her work ethically and responsibly. This experience has changed my life forever.
Wow.
Yeah, really, wow.
A man shot after stabbing an officer faces 6 felony charges. The Buffalo man shot by police last month after he stabbed an officer faces a half-dozen felony charges for that incident and a separate knife-point robbery that happened the same day. The Erie County District Attorney's Office said this on Monday. An Erie County grand jury indicted Derek M. Harris, age 35, on charges including first-degree robbery, first-degree attempted assault, and second-degree assault for the incidents that occurred May 23rd. District Attorney Mike Keene also announced the Buffalo police officer who shot Harris was determined to be justified in his use of deadly force. I think the circumstances here speak pretty clearly, Keene said at an afternoon news conference. This man had a razor and scissors in his hands and was trying to hurt not only a police officer but himself. Harris was arraigned Monday afternoon in Erie County Medical Center, where he remains hospitalized since the incident in which he was shot twice in the stomach area. Harris has undergone multiple surgeries at ECMC, Keene said. James Quinn Aricchio, Harris's defense attorney, declined to comment. Erie County Judge Kenneth Case arraigned Harris and ordered him held without bail, the district attorney's office said. Harris was intubated until Wednesday and remained heavily sedated until earlier Monday, according to a source. Prosecutors attempted to arraign Harris on Thursday, but he was not conscious, the source said. Harris stabbed Officer John Simonian in the torso about 4:40 p.m. May 23rd on Broadway near Liddell Street, as officers attempted to place him in custody. Simonian and another officer were flagged down by a woman who said her boyfriend had been stabbed the night before. She directed officers to Harris, who she said was the assailant. Harris had a pair of scissors and a razor, previously described as a box cutter, in hand when Simonian and Officer Joshua Slapinski approached. During the struggle with police, which was captured on body-worn camera and other footage released by the Buffalo Police Department, Harris was cutting himself and said, kill me," to the officers. Police initially said Simonian was stabbed twice, but he was only stabbed once, Keene said Monday. He was released from the hospital the day of the incident. Harris was deemed a level 1 sex offender when he was released from prison and put on parole in April of 2019 for a 2009 attack on an 11-year-old girl. Harris had already been charged with the May 23rd knife-point robbery of a Lyft driver at Bailey Avenue and Pullman Place. He was arraigned on charges from that incident by a Buffalo City Court judge on Wednesday. The reported stabbing that was reported to police by the woman who flagged the officers down remains under investigation. Harris's prosecution is being handled by Ashley Morgan, who has recently been named Homicide Bureau Chief for the District Attorney's Office. Morgan replaces Eugene Partridge III, who was recently elevated to Deputy District Attorney after former Deputy District Attorney Mara McCabe last week was appointed as a state court of claims judge. Harris faces 6 felony charges: first-degree robbery, first-degree attempted assault, second-degree assault, fourth-degree criminal possession of a stolen property, and 2 counts of third-degree criminal possession of a weapon, as well as a misdemeanor charge of fifth-degree criminal possession of stolen property.
And how about a little football? Minicamp matters. And there's this excellent picture of our young and very good NFL rushing title, James Cook, on the front page of the sports, and he's wearing his he's got like grease, I guess it's called grease, like chalk black stuff under his eyes that blocks the reflection, and he's got his braids, and he's wearing a beautiful Buffalo Bills cap on his head with this look of, I'm going to kill you.
Which we want him to have.
That's right, we want him to have that attitude. As Bills begin mandatory practices, here are 5 reasons to be excited or concerned. We'll have to wait until the Buffalo Bills are in Pittsford at St. John Fisher University for training camp in late July to see how their new defense will look in 2026. The off-season workouts have provided some clues. The defensive linemen will have more freedom reading and reacting to blocks. Inside linebacker Terrell Bernard is still viewed as the leader of the defense. Several young players need to fill prominent roles, and we'll learn more this week with the final phase of the Bills' off-season program. Mandatory minicamp practices will run Tuesday through Thursday in Orchard Park. The season does not begin for 3 months, and much will change during training camp. But here are 5 reasons why minicamp matters for the Bills. And here we are. Cook's return. We'll likely hear from James Cook for the first time since Sean McDermott got fired and Joe Brady was hired as head coach. Cook must be pleased with the Bills' decision to promote from within. In 2 full seasons with Brady as offensive coordinator, Cook rushed for over 2,600 yards and 28 touchdowns. His 16 rushing touchdowns in 24 led the NFL. His 1,600-plus rushing yards in 2025 made his Buffalo's first player to lead the league since O.J. Simpson in '73. There will be changes to the Bills' offense in 26. Will they use more 3 receiver sets? Is 13 personnel, 3 tight end sets going to be more prevalent with fullback Reggie Gilliam gone? If offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael's background matters, then Cook may see more work in the passing game. Do not be surprised, however, if the Bills try to get Ray Davis and Ty Johnson more involved. I agree. Cook carried the ball career high 309 times. That's a lot. He averaged 2 fewer yards per carry in the second half of games. It's too soon to get a read on workload distribution, but it will bear watching once training camp begins. Secondly, competition will continue. Austin Corbett is the leading candidate to replace David Edwards as the starting left guard, and Maxwell Hairston should enter training camp second on the depth chart at cornerback behind Christian Benford. Will we see any movement during mandatory minicamp? Cornerback is among the positions to watch. The Bills' decision to draft David Igbenosum in the second round surprised many fans. He's more than a backup, though. Igbenosum performs during OTA practices should have sent a message to Hairston that he has not won a starting job yet. This will be a fascinating competition to watch once the pads are on during training camp. Regardless of who starts week 1, Hairston and Igbenosum will play significant snaps on defense in 25. The depth chart on the defensive line was difficult to decipher during OTA practices because of absent or injured players. Maybe we'll start to get an idea of how defensive coordinator Jim Leonhard plans to use defensive tackle Ed Oliver and outside linebacker Greg Rousseau. At inside linebacker, meanwhile, Dorian Williams was absent from OTAs for an undisclosed reason, but he and Bernard are expected to be the primary starters. Inside linebacker Caleb Elam Orr, a rookie fourth-round pick, impressed the coaching staff during his first month in the NFL. A punting competition is also underway between return starter Mitch Wisnowski and rookie Tommy Doman Jr. Brad Robbins seemingly won the job during the mandatory minicamp last year, though he got caught after just one regular season game. Mandatory minicamp is also an opportunity for General Manager and President of Football Operations Brandon Beane to see if he needs to add more depth at a position. Number 3, injured players. We won't see outside linebacker Michael Hoyt involved in drills this week. His recovery from a torn Achilles tendon will force him to continue to work with trainers until training camp. If Hoyt is ready to practice at St. John Fisher, he'll gradually work his way into full participation. Joshua Palmer told the Buffalo News last week he's close to returning to practice for the first time since January. An injury to his left leg, including an ankle issue, derailed his first season with the Bills. He's expected to be their number 3 receiver behind DJ Moore and Caleb Shakir. If Palmer isn't healthy yet, do Keon Coleman and Skylar Bell take advantage of more snaps this week? Offensive tackle Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown were not on the field during OTA practices that were open to the media. In the secondary, the Bills need their cornerbacks and safeties to have more time on task during the final week of their off-season program. Cole Bishop missed a chunk of OTA practices. Benford missed 2 weeks because of personal reasons. C.J. Gardner-Johnson sat out a few workouts because of a minor injury. And Bishop and Gardner-Johnson need to get to know each other. Thankfully for Bishop, Gardner-Johnson is loud on the field. He's considered by teammates to be a strong communicator. The two needs to develop chemistry, so camp is a seamless transition. Gardner-Johnson isn't the only safety Bishop needs to get to know. The Bills may rotate the other safety spot during minicamp and training camp in order for Bishop to develop chemistry with the backups too. And managing the break. Nearly 7 weeks will pass between the end of mandatory minicamp Thursday and the start of Bills training camp. How would the break impact the approach to these practices? They are non-padded practices, so it's more about the process and execution with everyone available. It's another important week for Josh Allen as the superstar quarterback builds a rapport with Moore. Wide receivers were not the only reason why the downfield passing game was so inconsistent. Allen needs to connect on more of those throws. Mandatory minicamp is somewhat of a passing clinic, an opportunity for Allen to refine his mechanics and experiment.
You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier radio reading service. The time is 32 minutes after the hour. And the World Cup will be a pivotal test for alcohol. Forget ticket sales and geopolitical tensions. The World Cup might face another hurdle, a years-long decline in drinking. A massive global sporting event should be a celebration for the alcohol industry as people cram into bars or throw watch parties at home. Anheuser-Busch, InBev, Heineken, Molson, Coors, as well as liquor giant Diageo, are all pouring big money into the soccer spectacle. But the tournament is mostly taking place in the United States, where drinking is plummeting. The alcohol business in the United States is struggling more than in virtually any other part of the world, said Burkhard Nissen, a beverage analyst for Rabobank. We're seeing dramatic declines in consumption that are taking place elsewhere. But with 104 matches stretching over nearly 6 weeks, and 3 countries with major names like Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, the World Cup should provide at least temporary relief for the industry. The World Cup will increase consumption of beer, wine, and spirits, without question, Nissen said. It's a big boost for them at a time when they need it in a market where they need it the most. The question is, how much of a boost is enough, he added. For Diego, the World Cup couldn't come at a better time. Revenue for North America, its biggest market, dropped 9% in most recent quarter. More alarmingly, U.S. spirit sales fell 15%, hampered by low demand for its tequilas like Casa Amigos. North America remains our biggest challenge, CEO Dave Lewis said last month. A pioneering deal with FIFA could help. Diageo was named the World Cup's first ever spirit sponsor, meaning only its brand will be served at stadiums and sanctioned fan festivals. It's also the first time liquor will be sold at the tournament. Tequila and whiskey are huge with soccer consumers, according to Rick Pineda, Diego's Vice President of Global Sports Partnerships. The company will focus its marketing in the U.S. on Buchanan Scotch whiskey, Don Julio 1942, and Casamigos tequila. This is a huge opportunity for us to lead in the spirits category and to bring all of our customers, distributors, retail partners that have never had the ability to leverage a spirits partnership with the World Cup, he told CNN. A beer bump? Big Beer is also pumping millions into sponsorships and promotions in hopes of improving sales. The industry has been under pressure for years, with volumes further declining in 25 by 6%, according to trade group IWSR. Consumers are cutting back discretionary spending, which is affecting alcohol sales as well as shifting to spirits or pre-made options. But people more commonly associate sports with beer, Nesson said. So the World Cup will be a bigger boost to their business than liquor. This is a Super Bowl that lasts a month, he said. Anheuser-Busch, the World Cup's official beer sponsor, has held that deal for more than 40 years. But this year, instead of highlighting its Budweiser brand, Michelob Ultra will adorn an MVP trophy given to a player after every match. The low-carb beer is a bright spot among its beers, recently becoming the top-selling brand. The company is also spending on promotional activity at bars, because the bars will be the places where people will get together to watch the games. Heineken isn't a World Cup sponsor, but it is also increasing its marketing spend by nearly 200% at bars in hopes of reviving sales. They will be given promotional materials like pennants and signs, and the brand will sell limited edition soccer-themed packaging at retail outlets. Meanwhile, Molson Coors is increasing its spending by 60% this summer on ads focused on soccer. The brewer is also using the platform to promote its new non-alcoholic Coors 0% beer, tapping into one of the alcohol industry's fastest growing categories. Volumes of alcohol-free beer rose by 15% last year, according to IWSR. Past World Cup years have boosted global volume of beer sold by about 0.25%, with sales in the tournament's months jumping as much as tenfold.
There you go. I don't think that alcohol and World Cup soccer go together
I
well.
don't think they do either, but apparently for business it's good.
Apparently. Get the cops out, the Keystone guys. And here's I don't know, to me kind of disturbing, a ruling that restores Sorsby's eligibility. A local judge granted Texas Tech quarterback Brendan Sorsby's request for a temporary injunction against the NCAA on Monday, making him eligible to play for the Red Raiders this season. He was ruled ineligible by the NCAA after admitting to gambling on college football games, including betting on his own team while playing at Indiana. In his ruling Monday in Lubbock County, Texas, District Judge Ken Curry restored Sorsby's eligibility and said the NCAA cannot prevent him from practicing, playing, or otherwise participating on Texas Tech's football team for the 2026 season. The ruling determined Sorsby will suffer a probable, imminent, and irreparable injury if this court does not issue this temporary injunction, because he will be unable to participate as a member of Texas Tech University's 2026 football season. As suggested by his legal team, Sorsby will serve a 2-game suspension as part of the injunction terms. That would cover Texas Tech's games against visiting Abilene Christian on the 5th of September and at Oregon State on the 12th of September. The NCAA strongly disagrees with the court's ruling in Sorsby's case and is deeply concerned about the damaging, far-reaching, and broadly destabilizing ramifications of the outcome, which undermines and corrupts the integrity of the sport, the NCAA wrote. Sorsby was one of the most coveted quarterbacks in this year's transfer portal class after he left Cincinnati. He entered a treatment program for a gambling addiction on the 27th of April. He admitted to placing bets on college football teams among other sports. NCAA policy prohibits college athletes from betting on sports it holds competitions for, professional and collegiate. Sorsby's attorney, Jeffrey Kessler, has requested a ruling by the 15th of January. June, excuse me, thank you. The quarterback has until the 22nd of June to declare for the NFL's supplemental draft should he be ruled ineligible at the collegiate level. Court documents filed by Sorsby's legal team showed he placed at least 40 bets on the Indiana football team while playing for the Hoosiers in 22 and 23. In all, he wagered about $90,000 through a variety of sportsbook accounts registered to friends and a family member over a 4-year period. Sorsby threw for over 5,000 yards, 45 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions over the past 2 seasons in Cincinnati. He also ran for over 1,000 yards and 18 touchdowns in 24 games. Texas Tech won its first ever Big 12 championship last season and made the college football playoff as the number 4 seed, dropping its quarterfinal match to number 5 Oregon. They got blanked. Michigan State adds 2 more recruits. Another big recruiting weekend finished with a flourish for Pat Fitzgerald and Michigan State football. The Spartans picked up 2 more commitments for their 2027 class late Sunday night on the 7th of June with the additions of Colorado tight end Ryan Pankey and Texas wide receiver Zach Forbish. The addition of the duo ups Fitzgerald's first full recruiting class to 13 pledges, with 6 of them joining the group in the first week of June. Pankey, who is from Montrose, Colorado, is rated the number 109 athlete and number 1,369 prospect.
That's a long way down the
that
list.
sounds like it's kind of low in the nation, according to 247sports.com's composite rankings. The 6-foot, 230-pounder picked MSU over Colorado State, Oregon State, Washington State, UNLV, and others. The 6'2", 190-pound Forbish is unranked by thesports.com, but it generated significant interest and scholarship offers from Wisconsin, Pittsburgh, Colorado State, San Diego State, and others. Forbish caught 43 passes for almost 800 yards with 12 touchdowns last season, according to the Dallas Morning Star. He's also a talented sprinter who ran a 10.95 in the 100 meters in March at the Prosper Dan Christie's Relays and a 23.02 in the 200 meters in February at the Colony Cougar Invitational.
Well, we can't talk about the Sabres, but I guess we should give an update on hockey.
Boo!
Before Game 4, replay a late-night thriller. The manner in which the Carolina Hurricanes lost, or the Vegas Golden Knights won, Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final on Saturday night at T-Mobile Arena is bizarre enough. But the circumstances leading up to that double overtime result, it was a never-ending change of one-upmanship from the drop of the puck, replete with dueling lockdown defenses early, a hat trick, a penalty shot, and 2 NHL records. Can it get any better in Game 4 on Tuesday night in Las Vegas, with the Hurricanes trailing 2-1 in the best-of-7 series? It might be worth a double dare, but how can it top Game 3? Some of those crazy moments are worth replaying here. It was kind of a weird game, Hurricanes coach Rod Brind'Amour said afterward. I thought we were okay at the start, even the start of the second. The first 6 minutes, everything's going fine. That was the lockdown defense part. Carolina held Vegas to just 2 shots on goal against Frederik Andersen through 20 minutes. And then, that first goal kind of started with me, Canes forward Andrei Shvenikov said. The talented Russian jumped the bench when he wasn't supposed to, and officials whistled Carolina for too many men on the ice. I took that penalty, 6 men on the ice. It's kind of on me, and I have to do a better job on that, Shvenikov said, offering an honest mea culpa. But wasn't just one goal. Yes, Thomas Hertl scored at 10:26 of the second to put Vegas on top, 1-0. But then Mitch Marner took over and earned a piece of NHL history in the process. Just 26 seconds after Hertl's goal, Marner's shot was headed well wide when it deflected off of Sean Walker's stick and past Anderson. 2-0, Vegas. Another 3 minutes and 50 seconds later, Marner struck again on a backhand. And 2:20 after that, Marner streaked up the right side of the ice, reached the top of the circle, and fired a slap shot that beat Anderson clean low blocker. 4-0, Vegas. Marner's natural hat trick, 3 consecutive goals by one player in 6 minutes and 10 seconds, was the fastest 3 goals by a single player in Stanley Cup final history. We take a bad penalty, and then they make a nice play, Britt Armour said. And then bad bounce, and on the second one, and it snowballed on us there for the rest of that period. So, what was said in the Canes locker room? To be honest, it was kind of quiet a little bit, Shmenikov said. Roddy came out and gave us a little speech, and we knew what we had to do. The Hurricanes did what they had to do, and almost more. After another 7 minutes of stifling defense from Vegas, Carolina snuck one in, Jordan Martinook with the honors. I think we just needed something good to happen, Martinook said. You get that one and you felt like that's where the game turned. Did it ever? Martinook scored at 7:03 of the third. Then Taylor Hall, 7:29. Then Jordan Stahl, 7:42. Wait, what? These are not typos. The Hurricanes scored 3 goals in 39 seconds.
That's crazy.
Obliterating the previous NHL record of 56 seconds for 3 consecutive goals by a team in any Stanley Cup final game. A record that had stood since 1954. Proud of the group, we gave it a chance, Stahl said. It was a heck of an effort from everyone, contributing and grinding and finding the ways and giving us a shot. Shmenikov completed the climb back with a power play goal with fewer than 2 minutes to play in regulation, poking home the puck through a pig pile in front of Hart to force overtime. It was a heck of an effort, but we feel like we can come back from anything, but we can't put ourselves in a hole the way we did, Martinook said. The second period for them to come out like that and take control of the game is something that can't happen, especially this time of the year. The Hurricanes now face a Game 4 Tuesday in Las Vegas that, while not a must-win in a literal sense, became critical to the Canes' chances at a second NHL championship in 20 years. It's playoff hockey. It's part of the gig, Stahl said. It's never easy. It's never going to be easy. We know that. And we've got a bigger hill to climb now. But we're excited for the challenge. Bussey almost stole Game 3. Almost. For the past 2 months, Brandon Bussey had sat and watched as the Stanley Cup playoffs rolled on. The Carolina Hurricanes were winning games, winning series. Frederik Andersen was the starting goaltender for the Canes every game. Sharp playing, well, winning. Bussey practiced and practiced, but on a game day slapped on a cap and took a seat. Bussey answered more media questions about his pending wedding this summer than he did about the playoff games. And that after he was one of the Canes' most compelling feel-good stories of the season, taken off the NHL waiver wire and becoming a player named the team's MVP as he strung together wins. Bussey's name finally was called Saturday in the Stanley Cup Final. The Canes fell behind the Vegas Golden Knights 4-0 after the second period of Game 3 at T-Mobile Arena, and Canes coach Rod Brind'Amour decided to make a change. Bussey was up, thrown into his first career playoff game, and he knew what he was up against. My job was to put my head down and stop the puck, he said. What followed was another 45-plus minutes of riveting hockey. Bussey was in the middle of it all as the Hurricanes scored 4 times in the third period to tie it up, then lost in double overtime on a fortunate Vegas bounce and goal by defenseman Shea Theodore. Theodore's outside shot was a wide right of the net, but the hard carom kicked past the stick of Canes forward Jordan Martinook by the net, hit Bussey's left skate, and bounced into the net. It was over. Vegas the winner, 5-4, and a 2-1 leader in the championship series with Game 4 set for Tuesday. A shot from the point. I saw it all the way, Bussey said. It hit the yellow and shot out a lot quicker than I thought, so I guess I kicked it in. I kind of thought it was going to be a greasy one. Unfortunately, it was in our net. Bussey faced 19 shots. One was on a breakaway when Vegas' Mitch Marner, whose natural hat trick in the second period had Vegas fans giddy and hurling caps on the ice, drove the net past Sebastian Aho. Slashed on the play, Marner then had a penalty shot, but Bussey knocked that away, and the Canes soon were fighting back. We are a resilient group. We don't give up, Bussey said after the game. There were a lot of times in the postseason we showcased that in the playoffs.
That is an incredible game for the fans.
Yep.
Can you imagine? No, me either.
My son was telling me about it. That's why I chose to rip that one. Like, holy cow.
Yeah, I think I said out loud in the car, 39 seconds. I was like, oh my God.
How can that be?
Okay, so let's see what people are asking Eric. Dear Eric, my boyfriend has a second home in Florida where we stay 3 to 4 months a year. He pays Marcus, a neighbor, to look in on the house and drive the car when we're not there. Marcus has had issues with the car. 1 year, he apparently drove the car without gas. I don't know how you do that. And caused significant damage. The car is ancient. We could not prove he was responsible, and I paid a several $1,000 repair bill. Last year, he apparently did not drive the car enough, and the battery died, and he enlisted another neighbor, Jim, to help him jumpstart the car. We had been friendly with Jim and his wife, socialized at community functions, and went out to dinner a few times a year. My boyfriend thanked Jim for his role with the car when we returned to Florida, and I also thanked Jim in our annual Christmas card. Unfortunately, Jim has stopped speaking to us. My boyfriend contends I should have purchased a gift card for Jim and his wife, as accessing a hybrid battery is not easy, the car is in my name, and saying thank you was not enough. I think we paid Marcus to take care of the car. Marcus engaged Jim for assistance for his own accord, and if any compensation was expected, it should have come from Marcus. Who is correct? Is it too late to make it right? Signed, Not Trying to Be Ungrateful. Dear Not Trying, I'm by no means a mechanic, but I've jump-started my share of hybrids. Unless I'm missing something else here, this is in the favor category. A gift card would be nice, but a thank you suffices. Ask Jim if there's something else going on, or maybe something you can do to help repair the relationship. It seems odd that he'd stop speaking to you about this alone. It could be that Marcus is even more of a troublesome presence than you know, and Jim has reached his limit. But that's just conjecture, of course. Either way, it would be prudent to ask someone other than Marcus to mind the car and consider getting roadside assistance. Dear Eric, my husband and I have been together for more than 33 years. He is, in so many ways, a wonderful person, and we've built a good life together. When I met my husband, he already had a young son. My husband's ex, the child's mother, did everything she could to undermine any sense of normal family life. She even threatened my life. Throughout our marriage, I often felt that my husband's connection with his ex crossed lines. There was no cheating, but he shared personal things, such as details about our marriage. There were even Christmas mornings he spent with his son and his ex instead of with me and my family. Counseling helped somewhat. The therapist tried to help him understand how damaging those choices were. As their son enters his teen years, he struggled with serious behavioral issues and eventually drug abuse. Before he passed away at 21 from drugs, there were many painful incidents, threats, fights, drilling holes in doors to spy on me while nude, bringing criminals into our home and stealing and more. Despite everything, my husband and I survived it, and we truly love each other. But my husband still has contact with his ex even 15 years after their son's death. She continues to make comments implying that I was the problem, and my husband brushes them off instead of defending me. Am I supposed to tolerate this forever? Signed, Blended Family. Dear family, I'm sorry for what you've gone through. Your husband has crossed too many boundaries, and though therapy showed him how it was affecting you, it doesn't seem he's made amends. That doesn't mean he has to sever his relationship with his ex per se, but it needs to change, and he needs to be proactive about it. It's unconscionable that someone who has threatened your life in the past and continues to malign you is still treated as a non-issue. But your husband has to want to acknowledge your feelings and do the work to fix your marriage. It's unclear if he wants to. Draw a line for yourself. There doesn't seem to be a need for you to ever interact with his ex-wife, so tell him that that's not going to work for you anymore. Tell him that you need to recognize the hurtful impact his ex-wife has had on you and on your marriage, and work on making things different in the future. This may mean more counseling for both of you. It would also be helpful for you to seek individual counseling to help process your feelings about this relationship and the complicated, painful emotions brought up by his son's death.
You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for today, Tuesday, June the 9th, 2026. We read the Buffalo News live on weekday and Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. We rebroadcast at 4 p.m. If you would like more information, call 716-821-5555. That's 716-821-5555. Your readers today have been Lori and
Lita.
thank you so much for listening and have a great rest of your day.
If you or people you know shop at any of the Dash's supermarkets, please save Dash's register tapes for radio reading. Our agency receives $2 for every $100 in Dash's register tapes. Radio reading has raised thousands of dollars so far. Anyone can drop off their Dash's tapes to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 1199 Harlem Road, Cheektowaga, between William and Clinton Streets. Or Dash's tapes can be mailed to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 1199 Harlem Road, Cheektowaga, New York, 14227. Any questions on Dash's tapes for radio reading? Call us at 716-821-5555, and thanks for caring. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which